Based on your experience, what are the biggest myth or misconceptions about sustainability in this region?
That there is always this trade-off between sustainability and profit. So I've run the simulation with different groups of people, and they would just say, sustainability will cost money.
I used to think that small, medium, large, and family owned, but having a private company or a public company, that also changed the mindset to whom they are answerable and what the stakeholders are exactly looking for. Value comes first or the profit comes first.
I think IKEA is another very nice example of a company that does a lot about circularity, and they're privately owned. So they can do what they think is right without this pressure from third-party shareholders.
Depends a lot on what product you're selling and who's your target customer, because certain set of customer, they are ready to pay more if the product is more sustainable, but the other set of people, they look at the price only.
Bill Gates, he also wrote a book about climate change a few years ago, and he talks about the premium that sustainable products have. So now if you want to make sustainable aviation fuel, to the extent that it's possible at all, there would be a huge premium. Or sustainable steel or aluminium. There would be a huge premium compared to, let's say, conventional products.
Hello everyone, I'm Neetu Choudhary and I welcome you to Business Podcast Lead with Neetu. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Tim Rogmans. Dr. Tim Rogmans is founder and managing director of Sim Institute. It's a Dubai-based company that develops simulation for business education. Dr. Tim has authored several sustainability management simulations on the topic of responsible business, emission reduction, and circularity, all distributed by Harvard Business Impact. He previously worked as management consultant in Europe and as associate professor and director of executive education at Zayed University. Thank you so much, Dr. Tim, for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm quite excited. I'll let you know, we met at Dubai Chambers and Dr. Tim gave a beautiful presentation on sustainability, simulation, and net positive, and a lot of things. So that's what we are going to talk about in today's podcast. And I would like to start with, how do you define sustainability in a business context, and what is a net zero, circularity, and sustainability, carbon footprint? Like, if I'm a new business person, so what are these terms and what does it mean?
Right. Well, there's a lot of concepts already in that question. Originally, sustainability was defined by the United Nations as the idea that the way that we leave the planet to our children should be the same way that we've found it ourselves as adults. So we should take care of the future generations and not degrade the planet. So that is a concept that looks at sustainability from an environmental perspective, taking care of the planet. And that, of course, is very important also for businesses. But then the concept has become broader to encompass also other types of sustainability. And I think the best framework to use to look at it is to think about sustainability with its environmental aspects, but also its social aspects, meaning taking care of your community and your employees and the people around you, and then also the economic aspect, which can be about the financial performance of your company, but also of the economy and the community that you live in. So these days now, sustainability has these three pillars, so to say, environmental, social, and economic. And then within that, we have a lot of important sustainability challenges in the world. One, of course, is climate change, which is caused by greenhouse gas emissions. And in order to combat climate change as part of the Paris Agreement, countries in the world have expressed this ambition to move to net zero. So that's one part of your question. What do we mean by net zero? And of course, just to explain that a little bit, we all emit greenhouse gases. They stay trapped in the atmosphere. But the Earth, through forests and other means, is also able to capture greenhouse gases. And net zero refers to the idea that the greenhouse gases that we emit at any particular moment should be not greater than what the Earth can absorb. Now, we're very far away from reaching net zero, but countries in the world decided that we should have a path to net zero emissions by 2050 or 2060 in order to keep global warming to well below 2 degrees. So if the countries in the world have decided that that is their ambition, then it means that all the people who are responsible for emissions, like you and I, or companies, or other kinds of organizations, we need to do the same. We all need to become net zero. And in order to reach net zero, we need to do it, of course, step by step. And many countries have said that they want to reduce their emissions by 50% by 2030. And that again means that companies and individuals should do the same. So some of these ideas come back in my simulations. But thinking then about the other concepts that you mentioned, circularity is, of course, another really, really important one, and that comes as a result of the waste crisis that we have. There's lots of industries, anything that you can think of where we make physical goods like furniture, clothing, food, of course, also cars. All these industries and our use of their products leads to tremendous amount of waste problems. And there, again, countries, companies, individuals can take efforts to become circular. And circular really means a whole different economic model. It is where we get rid of the linear line of production, where we extract resources, we use them, and we throw them, to a model where we get resources, use them, and then reuse them all the time. So, there's a lot to say about each topic. Maybe you want to drill down into some of them later. But just to say that for circularity, I always think of this idea that in nature there's no waste. When an elephant dies in the jungle, we don't call that elephant waste. No, it's just there.
Yeah.
And then it serves as food or other uses for nature there. So waste is really a human phenomenon.
Yeah.
And we should take action to address this. So there's a whole idea of how we can become circular. And again, from a business context, how you can become net zero and get a business benefit, how you can become circular and still get a business benefit. And then I think the third concept you mentioned in your question is net positive.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that also if you wish. But that is, let's say, the most holistic of all of them. That is where, as a business, you do more good than what you take from your community and from the planet.
And that's what actually caught my eye. And I love these 3 pillars which you mentioned: environment, social, and economics. Because most of the time when we hear about the sustainability, we just think about the environment. But you have considered the social and economic as well. And as a business leader and from the business perspective, I think the profitability is equally important, because that's the reason anyone is doing business. So I think these 3 pillars are really amazing. And I would like to understand, how serious is this problem right now? What is the gravity of this problem? What is the severity of this problem right now? Which we are producing, but we are not reusing it, and it's filling the landfill is there.
Yes. So all of these sustainability problems are significant. And again, you can look at it narrowly, let's say, from an environmental sustainability perspective. There, emissions and climate change are a real problem, and we're seeing it in our daily lives now through more extreme weather events, because we didn't do enough early on to reduce our emissions. Now companies and countries need to spend money to become more resilient against climate change.
Yeah.
So they see that in increasing cost, in increasing insurance premiums, etc. And the same is true for waste, and related to the waste problem is also, of course, the issue of resource scarcity. So we're taking out resources that then we throw away, and then we don't have enough raw materials, or the raw material prices are increasing, and that affects our cost of making new goods. So these issues are serious, and companies are taking some steps to address them, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. If you look at it more broadly, also in terms of social and economic sustainability, then in many places in the world, we have a problem of income inequality, wealth inequality, and that also somehow needs to be addressed.
That's right. And my daughter, she is running, every year she runs this campaign, Global Plastic Recycling. And when she was doing this research, she found that there are more microplastic in ocean than stars in our galaxy. And it was a shocking thing because ultimately it's coming back to us in the form of water and food we are eating. And the lifespan will reduce from 75 to 40 years, human lifespan. So it is going to have a long-term impact if we don't take action. And I see that the simulations you create, it is going to not only help people understand, but give a roadmap. Okay, these are the steps we can take. So these simulations have a major role to play in understanding and for helping business to adopt these changes.
Right. So that's the idea. As background, we develop simulations or simulation games in which participants run a company and they are confronted with different challenges. And in many cases, we have a whole portfolio of simulations, but in many cases, you have a sustainability challenge, like how to become net zero, how to become circular, or how to become net positive. And you meet that challenge and you see the impact of your decisions and actions. And at the same time, you see your impact on your financial results, your customer satisfaction, and things like this. And it's true that as a company or even as an individual, the challenge may seem so big that you think, where do I begin? What can I do?
Exactly.
And in any case, what I do will not have much impact. And if I do something, it could hurt my bottom line.
That's
or
right.
It could be risky. So that's what these simulations are designed to do, to give people the knowledge and skills in order to take right action, but also to develop, let's say, the commitment and the enthusiasm and the confidence that they can take action, and that action will be good for them and good for their surroundings. And maybe related point to that, also the idea that if you take action and then involve others, so it could be your customers, your suppliers, your employees, or even your competitors, then you can have, let's say, multiplier impacts. Then, relatively quickly, you can really scale up and have a meaningful impact.
Right. Now, one question is coming to my mind is that sustainability, usually in companies, there is one department which takes care of it. But as you're explaining, it is responsibility of everyone, whether it's IT, procurement, it is accounts, any of the department, it's responsibility of them. So does these simulators help like not only the sustainability department, but all the departments to understand that what role they are going to play and how they can, even if they are able to make a very minuscule difference, but still it is going to have the cumulative effect later on.
Yes, exactly. So in the end, the sustainable or unsustainable behavior is done mostly by people in operations of a company. Not people who do the work, who make things, who serve customers, who sell things. And the sustainability officer or department is there really to act as a catalyst, right? To give people the skills that they need, the roadmap that they need in order to take the right actions. So often when our simulations are used within a company, they are purchased by the sustainability department, who then use them not only in their own department, but more importantly, across the organization.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, whatever department you work in production and in logistics, it's obvious what you can do in terms of reducing emissions, but also purchasing is key.
That's right.
And then if you think about the wider concepts of responsible business and net positive, then of course, everybody is affected.
That's right. Wonderful. I love this conversation. Because my understanding was that, okay, sustainability department is responsible. Now it makes sense that all departments, everyone has a role to play in that and like to make a bigger impact. Now, as a business owner, if I have not done anything till now for sustainability and I want to do something. So where should I start this journey?
You need to think, are you looking to impact first, let's say, emissions or waste, or are you looking more holistically? But whichever scope you want to address, I would think the first step would be to get some assessment of where you are today.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
what
really
what
important.
what are we doing today? In many of our simulations, you know, you first get data on your base year behavior. So you could say, well, if you're interested in emissions, how much electricity do we consume and where does it come from and what are the emissions? What are our other sources of emissions? But if you look at it more holistically, you can also say, well, how do we treat our employees? And how does that compare to maybe what other inspiring companies are doing? And how do we do our purchasing? So you do like some sort of baseline assessment, and then you need to make a roadmap of the what you want to achieve and steps to getting there. And then I think, like in any change program, you want to come initially with steps that are, let's say, relatively easy and that can demonstrate to possibly a skeptical workforce that you can do things, move forward, it's exciting, and it doesn't always need to go at the expense of other things that you might value, like short-term profitability.
That's right. You spoke about the two aspects. One is the sustainability, which is like at the core level we are doing, and then the holistically. So you spoke about the employee and the operational as well, like economic one. So if you can elaborate a little more about the employee, like having diversity or hiring the local talent rather than from outside. So what exactly it is?
Right. So first, I would say many employees, they go to work not only for the paycheck, but they want to do something that will fulfill them, something that will satisfy them, something that they are behind emotionally. So then if you're working with a company that's taking genuine efforts to reach sustainability, not just greenwashing, but actual important steps, then you'll be more proud of your company, you'll be more motivated, you'll speak more highly of your company towards other people, and you will perform better. So that is one aspect. But also in the net positive simulation, you will have seen that you can take actions which maybe from a short-term profitability point of view are not apparently the best, but they pay off very quickly. So let's say you purchase raw materials or goods from low-income countries. So why not make sure that the goods that you purchase, they lead to the workers in these places not just getting the local market rate, but actually a good living wage, so that they can send their kids to school. Similarly, if I think again about the net positive simulation, if you do purchasing from your local community where you can you imagine, maybe in some cases it'll be better and cheaper, maybe in some cases it'll be the same or you need to pay a small premium. Exactly. But if you do that, it can still be worth it because, of course, you minimize emissions from transporting goods compared to if you take them from far away. But also you create goodwill in your community. And then people may be more willing to work for you or to purchase from you. So there's all of that on the social side also. Maybe one interesting example that keeps on coming up in my mind is the chocolate company from my country, Tony Chocolonely. And they say they always pay the farmers a living wage for the cocoa beans that they purchase. They pay above the market rate.
Okay.
And then they say that pays back because then when we have a poor harvest or when there's an extreme weather event in the places where we get these beans from, then our farmers are actually more resilient. And our security of supply is greater because we give them this cushion. So they don't do it in order to get the business benefit, but the business benefit is there.
That's lovely. And I think as a leader, like not only as a sustainability leader, but as a business leader, we need to have that long-term vision. And what you share this case study, it combines everything. Long-term vision is there, thinking about community and having a more resilient supply chain and business for future as well. I think it talks about everything, operations and
Yes.
all the department. Wonderful.
Yes, and also marketing, because then as a customer, you will say, well, I can buy this chocolate and I know this is how the company behaves and I support that versus maybe another product that, does things differently.
Exactly. And if the harvest is not good and if they switch and start like using another harvest, then there is a problem because cocoa beans will not be available. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And then they would need to find different suppliers with whom they don't have a relationship.
That's right.
So, like you say, getting the short-term lowest price for everything always isn't the best option.
That's right. Like I work with some of the vendors and I know I'm paying 10% more than outside, but I still like to work with them because we have that kind of relationship. And like I know in middle of the night also, if I ask something that I needed tomorrow morning, it will be delivered.
Exactly.
So that kind of trust is there.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
And you mentioned about the social ones. So we travel a lot. And I realize that why the hotels and everyone insists that you buy the local product because a lot of handicraft art is disappearing because nobody is buying it. And if we are like buying the machine made things and not the handmade things, slowly those artists will disappear, that art will disappear, which has been like for thousands of years.
Yes. And that's also good for the guests.
Yeah.
Because guests, let's say they go to an international hotel, after they stay, they might not even have a feeling of where they've been. So to support the local community and to give people that connection is really valuable.
That's right. Me and my husband, we love handicraft so much and we travel a lot. Like we have been to more than 35 countries. And the first thing we do is look at like if the wind chime or some jewelry, which is handmade.
Right.
So we try to buy that one.
Excellent.
So my home is full of all handicraft items.
Yeah, nice.
So as a business leader, when we talk about sustainability, but the profitability is equally important. So how we can have the goals, especially sustainability goals, where I can run my business happily, I can give bonus to my employees, but at the same time, when I sleep at night, I don't have the guilt that, okay, because of my business, animals are dying or some damage is happening in the world. How I can balance that, like how I can measure and balance both the things, sustainability and the profitability.
Right. So the way I would look at it is first start with the things that you can do from a sustainability perspective. What are the actions that I could take? And often people have this mindset that they say, well, that's going to cost me money. But then actually work through the business benefits that you can get. And I often use like a little framework that takes me through 4 categories of business benefit. So you might say, if I do this, I don't know, I install new air conditioning equipment that's more energy efficient, or I put solar panels on my roof, or I support the local community by recruiting more people locally rather than from far away. If I do that, what will happen to my cost? And sometimes you will have a short-term cost increase, but often you will have long-term cost reductions. So solar panels are an obvious example, or energy efficiency generally. You make a little investment first, and then you get cost reductions for many years to come. Then secondly, you can think about what is the impact on my revenues? So how will customers react? And of course, this is very difficult to measure because you don't know exactly why customers come to you or why they don't come to you and how important sustainability is in their purchase decisions. But I did an interesting case study about IHG hotels and resorts. And I asked them the question, how important is sustainability in the purchase criteria of your customers? And when we think about that, we think about, people who care a lot about the environment, who want to stay green. But no, they said something else. They said sustainability is important, especially for corporate customers. And these corporate customers, they have reservation systems and databases with hotels that include some sustainability performance metric of the hotels.
Okay.
So you have more and more large companies now that say our employees will only stay in hotels with a minimum sustainability rating of this.
Okay,
Right?
that's interesting.
And that's good for them because then it has many benefits, but also in their sustainability reporting, they will take that into account. So coming back to that point, you can get all kinds of revenue benefits from being sustainable. Again, the chocolate example that I mentioned, this chocolate brand, how many customers does it get because it's sustainable? We don't know, but it's there. It exists. Then the third benefit that you can get is around reputational benefits.
Yeah.
And that can help you to get better employees. Often if companies have hiring problems, the company that has a good reputation will get the best candidates. Can be easier to get suppliers, can help you in your government relations. So reputational benefits, as long as they're based on real things, are very important too. And then finally, by being sustainable, you also reduce your risk profile and you become more resilient. So also in our simulations, sometimes unexpected things happen, like a drought or a flood. And depending on the characteristics of your hotel, you will be more or less impacted by such an external crisis. And you can think of many examples there. So sustainability then is also good from a risk management perspective. So we have these 4 categories. And then I would encourage managers to think through these and say, well, if I do this, what will be my benefits or maybe my costs if there's negative consequences in each of these 4 categories, and then come to an evaluation.
That's right. And I want to say this to our audience. I have used one of the simulations and it was fantastic because first of all, I'll request him to explain more about it, but I want to share my experience with you is that it is a long-term one and it, as you mentioned, it covers a lot of aspects like unexpected things as well. So please go to his website and try it once. You will love it because I loved it so much.
Good.
And Dr. Tim, I would like to know more about the simulation. Last time when I saw it is a long term, so it's not only the one time I see first year and I see result. I remember it was, I think, 7 years continuously we have to do, and every time different scenarios were coming actually every year. And then every year the different measurements. So if you can explain a little further about it.
Well, yes. So as I mentioned, we have simulations around net zero, circularity, net positive. And in each one, you manage an organization. It can be in the circularity simulation, it's a fast fashion company. In net positive, it's a hotel company. Net zero, we have it for a hotel and for a hospital. But actually, the lessons that you draw from it, you can easily transfer from one industry to another. Okay. They're general enough. It's not that you have to be in that industry to get value out of it. And like you described, you get information about the organization that you manage, about the starting point, and then for a period, usually it's indeed 7 years, you get confronted with external events that you need to take into account in your decision making. And sometimes these are surprising, but at the same time, somehow, if you read the news properly, you know that it could be coming.
That's right.
So you should be getting ready for them. And then each year you make a set of decisions. And these can be decisions about how much money you spend on certain things like staff training or customer communication. But they can also be about investment projects that you implement or about policies in your organization. And then the good thing about simulations generally is that you enter your decisions and you see the impact of your results, of your decisions on the results. So you can link cause and effect. And there's plenty of choices that you can make that are not so good. And then you think, oh, well, why didn't that work out? And it's, of course, not the case that the simulation is the only truth that exists. It's one example, I would say a realistic example of an organization and the impacts of decisions that you can make. But people might disagree. And they might say, well, actually, in my country or my organization, doing that would have a different impact from what's reflected in the simulation. And that's fine. I mean, that's inevitable. But that can lead to really rich discussions about, okay, I see this. It doesn't mean that I should blindly copy all of the good initiatives in the simulation and do them. No, but they can give me ideas, and then I evaluate, and by using the simulation, I get actually trained in how to evaluate initiatives. And then I build that skill, and then I can evaluate my own ideas in my own business much more effectively later.
That's right. And what I like about the simulation was that it makes you think. Like when I was doing it, I thought, oh my God, I never thought about that thing. This is something new. And the unexpected things, when it comes, I say, oh yes, there was flood, I think last year in Dubai. Nobody expected, but it happened. So were we really ready for it? So I think simulation prepares us. Our like brain muscle is developed for those kind of scenarios, which may come. Nobody knows about that one.
Exactly. So they should be rich, but not too complex. But they should have this richness of things that can actually happen in the world, and then sometimes you get like a little heads up. You get a news item and it says there's increasing risk of cyber attacks or floods, or there's a tariff war that could happen, and then you see that, and we all read these things, of course, ourselves in our daily lives, and then you can think, what do I do to get ready?
That's right. Like last time, it's not related to simulation, but the supply chain was disrupted and Toyota suffered a huge loss. So they redefined their entire business model and supply chain and the storage and procurement, everything. So during the COVID, they were more resilient because they were already prepared for it. So I think these kind of simulation helps a lot. And one more thing I like about the simulation is, we live in a world where everything is not perfect. There are a lot of constraints are there in business, and we have to work within that framework. And simulation has that. Like I remember we could select only 4 initiatives in a year. I think it was 4. So we live in a constrained world. We cannot have all the options in one go. That's also a good part of it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so you do want to bring some realism into it. And as a business, you need to prioritize. You cannot do everything. And you can do that either by setting a budget for investment, or you can say, well, you can implement 3 or 4 projects per year.
That's right.
And that's a reality. You cannot do everything at the same time.
Until finance manager gets happy and our budget is approved.
Right.
Which is the ideal scenario.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes the budget thinking is not completely productive. Because sometimes people feel that if they have a budget, then it's okay to spend. But it's actually each individual decision that you should work out, does it make sense or not? If it makes sense and you have, the capacity to do it, then you should do it.
That's right. In fact, next year, because this year we started the roundtable of the industry experts from different verticals. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking next year I have planned a couple of roundtables with CEO, procurement, supply chain and all. Your work fits into everything.
Right.
Because whether it's a recruitment, it's a supply chain, it's operations, it's finance, it's IT, everywhere the sustainability is required.
Yes, it is. And just one thought about that also, and you will have seen that when you use the simulation yourself, that there's additional value if you play at the same time as other people. So that you can talk to them, and also in business education, if you see students using the simulations, then quite quickly they start teaching each other. So as a professor, there's not that much you need to do anymore, because they're explaining the things that you want them to learn to each other. And then within companies also, you see people just having really rich debates that probably otherwise they wouldn't have, because the simulation becomes like a neutral ground. And you can discuss things more openly in that context.
That's right. And it's cause and effect. So if I have chosen certain initiative and I did not get result, so I need to go back and question myself rather than anybody else actually.
Well, yes, but then you can discuss it with the other person in your team or the other people and say, well, why didn't that work out? And perhaps in our organization, it would work out. And these are valuable discussions.
That's right. Based on your experience, what are the biggest myth or misconceptions about sustainability in this region? especially among business leaders?
That there is always this trade-off between sustainability and profit. So I've run the simulation with different groups of people, and they would just say, sustainability will cost money. That would be their opening statement.
Yeah.
And then you tell them, or through the simulation, you show them that that's not always true, and very, very often that's not true. And there you see again that if they experience it through the simulation, it's much more powerful than when you just tell them. Because if you just tell them, you say, yes, I heard that, but I still don't believe it. So that is a common misconception, right? And then some people will think, we'll do enough sustainability in order to manage our image and our profile, but we don't want to do more than that. And therefore, to do things differently, you really need also a mindset change. You need to say, no, we can use it properly as a way to drive real impact. And I think also as a way to gain competitive advantage.
That's
Really use it as a strategic element in your organization. So this is, I think, the biggest misconception.
That's right. Does it differ like from the small business to medium to large business? Because large business, of course, they have been in market for a long time, and that's how they have become large, especially the family business if we talk about. So does this mindset differ from small, medium, large and family businesses?
I think it does, but in the same way that small and large businesses differ, generally speaking. So in a small business, you can rely more on the enthusiasm of the founder, right? And that then will spread to the other employees. Whereas in large businesses, you're more reliant on processes, on procedures. So that is one big difference. I think also a difference, and here UAE family-owned companies might have an advantage, and a difference is whether the company is publicly owned or privately owned.
Okay.
So if a company is quoted on the stock market, and you and I, we own shares in a particular company, then the pressure that we put on the management is to deliver financial results, and often these are short-term financial results. We don't want a story about this quarter results are bad, but we're building something for the long term. I mean, it might work sometimes and it will work a little bit, but at some point we say now the financial results need to come. Whereas if you're a private company or family-owned company, you have first the ability to set your own values and balances. So if you want to sacrifice profitability for doing good, then you can. But also you have the patience. Right? You can say, actually, I do believe that sustainability will give me benefits, but I can sit it out. I can do it now, and the benefits will come. So this chocolate company I mentioned is a privately owned company. I think IKEA is another very nice example of a company that does a lot about circularity, and they're privately owned. So they can do what they think is right without this pressure from third-party shareholders.
That's quite interesting because I used to think that small, medium, large and family-owned, but having a private company or a public company, that also changed the mindset to whom they are answerable and what the stakeholders are exactly looking for. Value comes first or the profit comes first?
Yes, and in publicly owned companies, in quoted companies, you should drive towards sustainability and you can get the business benefits, but you just need to explain it more carefully, I think. It can be a little bit more challenging, but it doesn't mean that the business case is any less. So you should still move forward with it.
That's right. What you mentioned is so important, that who are your stakeholders, and Like, because new generation, they are very careful. I have seen my daughter, she's like, she reads the label and say it has having palm oil and all. And then I'm 40 plus, I have to remove my glasses to read that small font. And but she makes sure she reads the label. So that generation is really very mindful that how they are using, is this product sustainable or not, is it animal testing is done or not.
Yes.
So they are quite careful about
Yeah,
it
they are.
and
They
aware.
are. So that's the revenue part,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I'll also mention one quoted company that has really pushed this agenda, at least when they had the CEO in place, who, in my view, coined the term net positive. So there's Paul Polman, who was the chief executive of Unilever.
Okay.
And he said we have a net positive agenda. And he wrote the book together with Andrew Winston called Net Positive. And that explains this whole concept. And you have the same concept with other words also, like creating shared value or purpose and profit. And there's other people who write really interesting things about it. But he's the one who implemented it in Unilever. And it's not that Unilever became a completely net positive company everywhere in everything that it does, but it pushed forward a lot of projects. And the example that he mentions a lot is their promotion of hand washing among young people in India, and how that really helped to lower the death rate among young people.
That's right.
And of course, then it also increased the market for soap. And he has many other examples of how he drove this agenda in his company. But then, when you have a new leader or you have certain events or other pressures, it can become more challenging. But it doesn't mean that it cannot be done in publicly quoted companies.
That's right. And I'm thinking that it depends a lot on what product you're selling and who's your target customer, because certain set of customer, they are ready to pay more if the product is more sustainable. But the other set of people, they look at the price only. So we have to, as a company owner, I need to look at what is my product, who is my main target clients, and what is their main requirement. So everything is interconnected with each other.
Right. So that's a challenge. Bill Gates, he also wrote a book about climate change a few years ago. And he talks about the premium that sustainable products have. So now if you want to make sustainable aviation fuel, to the extent that it's possible at all, there would be a huge premium.
Yeah.
Or sustainable steel or aluminium. There would be a huge premium compared to, let's say, conventional products. And the same could be true for consumer products, sustainable fashion.
That's right.
Or electric cars, they had a premium. So over time, that sustainability premium is decreasing. As you have economies of scale, more people are interested in it. Maybe electric cars is a good example. 10 years ago, they used to be a lot more expensive than petrol cars, and now that premium has pretty much disappeared. But that also then leads to the question, is sustainability only for people who can afford it?
Yeah.
And their company should find a way, and they can find ways to make sustainable behavior also accessible for the large and lower income groups in society.
That's right. And I think that's where the educating your customer is so important. If we tell them exactly why we are doing it and what are the benefits in long term, and convey the message in the language which they understand, whatever their top 3 criterias are that for them, if we explain in that, I think they will understand. What I see is a gap between is it the intention of business leaders and the way they are communicating to their customer. Right. I think that's where it is. If it's communicated properly, I'm sure customer will also understand that.
Yes, and then you need to link it to other benefits that customers can get. Not everybody in their daily lives. I mean, you mentioned the young people, and it's true, they care a lot more. But if your product is sustainable, but it's somehow less convenient or more expensive, then you will lose potential customers.
That's right. And do you see the difference in, we have spoken about this small, medium, large, and family business. Do you see the different sectors, if it's a hospitality or the healthcare or the manufacturing, do you see their perception also differs for sustainability? What are the top challenges different industries face in going for sustainable solutions?
So there are differences, but what I find interesting is that sometimes let's say, the industries that are the worst for the planet are the first ones to take good action, because they see the problems that they create. And okay, unfortunately, many companies don't do enough, but then there's also ones that do take action. So you mentioned palm oil.
Yeah.
So that can be a problem. That's the sector where you do have large companies taking action, but to be honest, also it's driven from small and medium-sized companies who really innovate in this area and bring these innovations that don't lead to deforestation. But if you think about IKEA, they're a huge user of timber, and that can result in deforestation and other environmental problems. And they're actually taking a lead. And when I used to work as a management consultant, we put the environmental practice of the consulting company in the same division as the chemical practice, because it was the chemical companies that were interested actually in sustainability more than others.
Okay.
So sometimes you have industries where you might say they are the cause of the problem, and there you have players who are really leaders in finding solutions.
That's quite interesting, actually. Wow, that's quite interesting. I love this.
Right?
Yeah.
And it won't be everybody. Whereas if you are already in an industry that, I don't know, you're in small scale farming, or, you're not doing much harm, then you can just keep on going in many ways.
That's right. Yeah. So we have to be like thinking about industry, whether we are private or public, what is our product or service, and to whom are we selling, and to whom are we answerable. So a lot of things need to be considered if I'm a sustainability leader. Now I have a question. Finance professionals, those who take care of all the profit and loss and everything, they understand only numbers, and sustainability leaders understand the human and social aspect and sustainability. When they are communicating, how a sustainability leader can ask for budget or talk to a finance leader or CFO of the company to get the budget approval, or talk to the procurement person. So what are the strategies sustainability leaders need to have when they talk to somebody who understands only numbers?
So in many countries, now there are more and more requirements on sustainability reporting and emissions reporting. So there you need the skills of the accountants to actually quantify things that weren't quantified before. So now they need to do sustainability reports, and who better to involve in that than the people who now do the financial reports. So you have people there who will help you draw that up. And in any case, if you're a sustainability officer, in order to be credible, you need to measure the cost and the impact of what you're doing. So again, the accountants, they can help with this. The second aspect is to think through these 4 areas of benefits that I mentioned. So if you talk to an accountant and you say, we want to make this investment, and the accountant says, well, we don't have budget, or it's going to cost that much, then you use the business language. And you can say, well, actually, over 4 years, it will lead to this level of cost reduction. So actually, it will pay itself back easily. And then if we do that, then also I'm willing to increase my revenue budget for the next year by 5%, because I think that with this solution in place, I can gain more revenue. And then, of course, accountants and other departments around that area, like auditing, are also interested in risk. So you say, and it's a risk management tool, and it will enhance your reputation. So if you start using that language, then why not? There's you should talk about numbers, I think, when you talk about sustainability. If you're not willing to quantify your expected results, then it becomes difficult to make a decision.
That's right. And that shows it's sustainability leaders, whatever position they are at, like in a company, they need to think beyond their work. They cannot only think about sustainability. They need to come up and think it as a business. And once they start seeing it as a complete business, then only they'll develop the language to communicate with finance, operations, supply chain, procurement, everybody, because they have to speak their language there.
Yes, yeah, and that's where a sustainability department can come in. Or again, if you think at business schools, often the debate is, should we have a course in sustainability, or should we incorporate sustainability in a marketing course, in accounting, in human resources? And the answer is a little bit of both. there's some like core concepts that you want everybody to know, so that you could do in a sustainability course, and then you apply them in these different specializations. And the same in a company, where the sustainability department can make sure that everybody knows a few things about different aspects of sustainability, and then they can drill down further in their own area of purchasing, marketing, logistics, etc.
That's right. It's something like IT. No matter which department you are working in, you are aware of basic IT things, how to start a system, how to use, how to reboot, if there is an error, how to fix. So I think sustainability need to go in all department, all roles. They need to understand basic thing, like if I'm using a plastic bottle or plastic glass or a plastic spoon, can I replace? So this is just an example.
Yes.
I think like IT, we need to put sustainability everywhere in all departments and everywhere.
Yeah. And there's still progress to be made.
Yeah.
I find it interesting also when we use the simulations, especially with senior people, that in the beginning, they say, we know everything there is to know. You know, do you know about climate change, scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? Do you know what a carbon budget is? They will say, we know everything. And then in a traditional training method, it would become difficult to start explaining things to them that they say they already know. But if they play the simulation, they played, and then afterwards they will say, oh, well, now I did learn a few things that I wasn't quite sure about.
Yeah.
So it becomes like more of a risk-free way to supplement your knowledge. And these knowledge gaps, they exist, and they're not that difficult to fill. They're not such difficult concepts that, you know, with a little bit of effort, everybody should be able to understand them.
That's right. And I think I'm having a roundtable with procurement team next, I think in January or March I would love to invite you, because you'll stir the conversation. Procurement professionals will not be happy to see you because they're already facing the ESG challenge. So your presence will make the conversation even more interesting, actually.
Oh, yes. So in terms of procurement, again, you mentioned the young generation.
Yeah.
They care more and more about the company's entire supply chain. So you buy your soap, you know, where does the oil come from? How, you know, you have different kinds of palm oil, let's say more responsible, less responsible.
Yeah.
People care about this more now. So procurement is a driver in this. So yes, I mean, the ESG challenge, they're key players in it.
That's right. And ESG is like a big challenge for them because they have to balance cost as well as the ESG requirements as well.
Yes, but it's an opportunity for
That's
them
right.
to add more value to their business.
That's right. I want to ask, like, sustainability is so important for everything, whether it's a risk, the resilience, it's the continuity of a business and long-term results as well. Do you think it's high time that we have sustainability representatives entering the boardroom and having a seat there to talk about it? Because right now, I don't see the sustainability representatives are there in boardrooms.
Well, that's true. And the question often becomes, you know, how is it represented currently in a board? So who does the sustainability officer report to? And sometimes it's finance or it's a COO. So that is true. I'm not thinking that, you know, if only you have that person on the board, then things will be solved. But somehow as a board, you need to make sure that these topics and areas of expertise are represented. I'm afraid sometimes if you would say, well, we just put that person on the board and then we tick that box, then it might still not do enough good.
That's right.
It would be, of course, great if they do it and then really integrate it. But there's other ways, you know, you can have a sustainability committee on the board. You can put sustainability topics on the agenda.
That's
so
right.
It does need adequate representation,
the presence
for sure.
has to be there. And do you think that sustainability representative reporting to CFO is better, or CEO or COO? Like, what is the right way, the right reporting, which will really help business? CEO, CFO, COO, or CEO?
Again, I'm not a big believer that the structure will solve a problem. So it's not how I look at things. So wherever it reports, you know, you need to have this mindset throughout the organization.
Yeah.
So for sure, you need to have a CEO commitment to this. Now, if then you get that commitment more, if the chief sustainability officer reports to the CEO, then even better.
Yeah.
But you could have a similar commitment if the person is,
That's right. But we
reports
can have
elsewhere.
a committee where all these people are part of it. So they can have an open discussion. And
Yes.
then that committee can report to board.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you need to make sure that as a senior management team, this topic is always on the agenda. For me, that's the main thing, because it might not naturally be on the agenda because people would be interested perhaps in short-term and operational or financial topics, like these are always discussed. But then you need to find ways that it's always part of the strategic discussions.
That's right. And the way we have seen a lot of disruption in like last decade, I think the board has also become more aware. They want to have a holistic view, and they want, like some of the board members I have seen, they insist that we need to have sustainability, we need to have finance, IT, everything has to be there. To have the holistic view and manage risk, make the business more
Yes.
resilient in long term. So that perception has changed in last 1 decade, actually. I have seen that one.
It is, and it's different pressures. I mean, you mentioned the consumers, but there's also the regulatory pressure that the board wants to make sure that the company does adequate sustainability reporting in line with all the guidelines, etc.
That's right.
So yes, it's becoming more and more strategic and important.
And the end user is aware what's happening. They can just go on website and check what products you're using, from where you're procuring. So that's also there. Like that puts another pressure on company to be more sustainable.
Yes, I mean, you have websites, you have apps where in the supermarket you can scan a product and then you see its characteristics. And that's not only about environmental sustainability, but also about the health impact that a product can have on you.
That's right.
So yes, with everything that's happened, there is easier and easier access to information.
That's right. Wow, what a wonderful conversation we had. And before we finish, if any one message you can give to our audience, they are like business leaders, so not only sustainability, but all departments.
Well, it would be a simple message, which is to get started. Don't wait for a fancy plan or a comprehensive solution, because whatever plan you have, when you start executing it, it will change a little bit over time. And actually, when you start, you experiment, then you learn more and you can help to define your plan.
Yeah.
So that would be my main message, actually. And then, of course, as you do that, clearly you need to set an overall direction, but then you let the people doing the work actually come up with these ideas and implement them. And then you learn, and then things that you do can become more and more impactful. So don't think that the choice is between solving everything perfectly or doing nothing. There are many things in between that can be helpful.
Wonderful. I love this, and I love this one, that get started. Wherever you are, just start it. Because once we start today, then only tomorrow we can change something. Beautiful. Thank you so much,
Excellent.
Dr.
Thank
Tim.
you so much.
I loved
Nice
it.
to be
I
with
love
you.
this conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I'll share Dr. Tim's and his institute link in the description. Please follow him, connect with him for simulator. I have used it, and it will change your perception towards sustainability. So whether you're a sustainability advocate or not, I would insist that you follow him and go at least use that simulator once, and then you will see the difference. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for more business podcast.